Hey guys, and welcome to Studies Religion Half-Yearly Exam 2013 explanation. I'm just going to take you through the exam really quickly and just highlight some key things to remember for next time, and just to make sure that we understand what we can do in order to achieve the best possible result. So this is applicable for 1 unit and 2 unit students. So going through with the multiple choice is pretty straightforward. I did mark which ones you got wrong with the right answer when I went through. I suppose top tip, make sure you fill in all the boxes. Some people actually didn't, like they left one of the questions blank, maybe because they were going to come back to it and they forgot, but always remember to fill in every question. The next section was talking about dispossession and the Aboriginal people. Things that you should have mentioned there were the importance of the land to Aboriginal people, and then talk about the impact on their spirituality, which was the ceremonies, rituals, balance rites, kinship, totems, sacred places. If you mentioned some of those and explained how they had an impact, you would have done fairly well. Ecumenical question for section 1 part B. You got 0 marks if you actually didn't know what ecumenism is. So if you mentioned interfaith dialogue and other religions, you probably got 0, because ecumenism, as we know, is dealing with Christianity here in this question, and it's how the different denominations come together. So you needed to have mentioned some examples such as the Uniting Church, National Church Life Survey, National Church Council of Churches Australia, and then mention when they formed, such as dates. So the Uniting Church, you would mention that was formed in 1977. You talk about the denominations that were formed, or what the Uniting Church came out of. So key details in order to get full marks. And how they promote unity, common interest, common goal, etc. And then for section 2, for 2 unit, you had to answer 2 questions. For 1 unit, had to answer 1 question. That means for question 1, see how it's A, B, and C? You actually answer A, B, and C. We had a few students answer just part A of each one, which meant they only answered 1/3 of the questions per 2 unit. For 1 unit students, you only had to answer 1 question, which is A, B, and C of question 1. Most of you did Judaism and Islam. A couple of you did Hinduism and Buddhism and didn't do very well, for the very reason that I warned you about, that you didn't have enough detail. But for those who did Judaism, contribution of 1 significant person was Isaiah, was the person that we spoke about. And then question B outlined the ethical teachings. So the ethical teachings, it says here with regards to that's all right, we just got Mr. Knight walking through. Everyone say hello, Mr. Knight. It says with regards to biosexual or environmental ethics. Some of you wrote a little section on each of them. Okay, you actually were meant to write on just one. Okay, in class we just studied the environment, so we just meant to write about environment. And remember guys, you're meant to be an expert in this. So if you're just waffling on about how, yeah, we're meant to look after the trees and everything, if I actually went out in the playground here and asked a student in Year 9, tell me about some of the environmental ethics for Judaism or Christianity, they will be able to tell me that. But because you've actually studied this for 1.5 years, you should be able to give me details, quotes, Torah verses that actually indicate that you know a lot more, okay, that you've actually studied and prepared. The concepts of Bal Tashit and Tikkun Olam for Judaism are really important about not destroying the world and being caretakers. Same thing with sexual ethics. Some people wrote about that thinking they'd write about that rather than environmental ethics. Just writing do not have sex before marriage is not enough to get good marks in the sexual ethic question. Okay, it goes a whole lot deeper and varied than that with different issues. Significant practice of Judaism. The synagogue service, you need to talk about how it was, the synagogue went right back to 587 BC. Talk about the different services after Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, what they meant, what they do. because it says here, how does it express the beliefs? So you're meant to talk about the service, then actually how that informs the belief. So looking at the Torah informs the belief about how important that is. Prayer, obviously important that God hears and God listens. So you needed to not fall into the trap that some of you did, is just to go onto autopilot talking about the impact on individual and community, because that actually wasn't in the question. That's actually a different question. Okay, so that was Judaism. And then we had what most of you did was Islam. Sayyid Qutb, again, it's not a biography. You're actually listing how did he develop, or what impact did he have, or what did he contribute to the religion. So you can talk about his writings. Okay, he did write 24 books, not just milestones and in the shade of the Quran, but he wrote about jihad, coming back to the true heart of Islam, the jahiliyyah, or the ignorance of the non-Muslim people, and brought them back to that jihad, or that struggle against the West and their influences. So you needed to have mentioned that. Some quotes from his books would have been helpful. Ethical teaching of Islam as well. You need to mention Khalifa, Akrid, Tawhid, Akra, all those things about sustainability, accountability, oneness. Quran verses would be helpful for environmental ethics. Do not destroy what is good and green. Significant practice of the Hajj. Once again, it's talking about how it expresses the beliefs. So you're writing key things about the Hajj, and then mentioning how they express the beliefs, not just what they did, or that everyone should go on a Hajj. I mean, that was year 11, and that's your basic knowledge, but you're meant to be an expert on the Hajj now. Some of you didn't even mention any of the key terms, or the Arabic terms for what they do on the Hajj, which means that you don't actually know the Hajj that well. A couple of you did Christianity, and that was done okay, probably because we haven't done it, wasn't the detail there. Just a key point, you cannot write about Jesus as your significant figure, okay? You can't write about Jesus, you can't write about Muhammad. You need to really know what you can and can't write about. And the safest way of doing that is just to write about the things that we've learnt in class. So guys, probably for those who might have been a little bit disappointed with their mark, make sure that you have enough detail, you use quotes, and it's not general, okay? Some of you do this. You say the question says, talk about how a significant practice is important and expresses the beliefs. Some of you will write something like, the significant practice of the Hajj is really important for the Muslim people. It is really important, and it expresses the beliefs of the Muslims because it is so important and it's held in such high esteem. So you keep going on with verses or lines like this that fill up the page, but you're actually not really saying much. Okay, and what we're looking for as markers, we're actually looking for the details to show that you are an expert on this topic. And some of you think, wow, I've written a page, that's fantastic, but when you actually dissect it, you actually haven't really said much at all. You might have said people are meant to take a Hajj if they're physically or financially able, and that's it. And that's basic. I mean, you could study for 2 minutes and learn that, but you've been studying for a year and a half. So that's what I want to stress to you, that in your writing, you need to be experts. You need to know the detail, otherwise your marks won't reflect that. So we have the trial coming up. The trial will be a similar format, except we're going to have some extended responses in there as well, and I'll explain that fully. So well done to those who achieved their best and studied and worked hard for that mark. For others, hopefully this will be a little reminder or a challenge, a wake-up call to keep studying even harder than you have been in order to achieve your best.